So I work at a movie theater and I get to talk to a lot of people about movies. Now, I work at a movie theater because I'm a big fat movie nerd. I love film and comic books and regular books and all that stuff. I do have a girlfriend, but I might like movies more than I like her. I don't know, it depends on the day. Anyway, I have a lot of people at work ask me if such and such movie is good or not, and I usually don't know what to tell them. If I've seen the movie, I can tell them my own thoughts on it, but if I haven't, my first instinct is to refer them to the tomato meter. Now let me be clear, I do not always agree with Rotten Tomatoes, but it gets more hate than it deserves, and it's usually a pretty good indicator of what kind of a product I'm going to get. More on that later, however. For now, back to people asking me my thoughts on if movies are good. I usually can't answer this question because, long story short, I'm a pretentious douchebag that puts my own opinion higher than that of the simple common folk. Or at least that's what most people think. I don't actually think this, but I do humbly feel that I have a better understanding of film and the cinematic process than many of the kind elderly folk or average moms who come into my theater do. Not that this is exactly a bad thing on their side, it's just the way it is. This whole affair is a different topic entirely, however, and more on it in another video. Maybe. But long story short, part of the reason this troubles me so much and why I can't answer it is this. What makes a movie good? The answer obviously varies from person to person, but I would say that most of the average movie-going audience has one specific thing in mind that makes a movie good to them. Enjoyability. If they enjoy watching a movie, they think that it is therefore inherently good. And often, what a general audience enjoys in a film are traits which critics and cinephiles think make a film bad. For instance, many people love the Transformers films because they're funny, action-packed, cool, exciting, and things like that. To a critic, this translates to dumb, loud, generic, boring, things like that. Why is this? Because critics and cinephiles understand more, so they expect more. So now for my central argument. When it comes to film, personal enjoyment and recognition of quality are two different things and should be seen as such. Enjoying a movie does not mean that it's inherently good, and not enjoying a movie does not mean that it's inherently bad. Let me explain and give some examples.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
The Room is undoubtedly one of the worst movies ever made. It's terrible in literally almost every way, and is about as far from a good or competent film as you can get. And I love every second of it. There are very few movies as enjoyable as The Room, and very few movies as bad. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now, of course, this is because The Room fits into the genre of so bad it's good, which has been covered at length by many people smarter than me. A good example of this can be seen in Now You See It's video, a study of so bad it's good movies. Another more recent example is 2018's Venom, which also deserves its own video and which I might talk about one day. But Venom is an incredibly fun, enjoyable, and entertaining movie while also failing on almost every measurable metric of actual quality that a film can. Again, it's entertaining, which I think a lot of audiences count as enjoyable, which is why the audience score on the tomato meter is so high, while the critic score is so low. Now a counterexample. I'm a big X-Men fan, and I always have been. The film series has had its ups and downs, with more ups than downs, and one of those ups being James Mangold's 2013 film, The Wolverine. Now, this is not a perfect movie by any means, but both critic and audience consensus on the film was pretty good. It's certainly a better movie than X-Men Origins Wolverine or X-Men The Last Stand, but strangely, The Wolverine has always been one of my least favorite X-Men films. I mean, I like it just fine, and I think that's quite good, but I simply don't enjoy it that much. As a matter of fact, and this is bold, I know, I'd rather watch X-Men Origins or The Last Stand because I enjoy those movies more. However, I will recognize and concede the point that The Wolverine is better. This is for a few reasons. What I like in an X-Men film is the X-Men. I certainly don't hate Wolverine, but I like the team better. The X-Men and team are much more relevant as characters in X-Men Origins than they are in The Wolverine. Now, one of the chief reasons X-Men Origins is a very flawed movie is its overstuffed and unfocused narrative. Many of the other X-Men and mutants that are in that film really don't need to be, and really shouldn't be, but they are. However, for me, that make the film enjoyable, if frustrating, because they ruin what could have been a great Wolverine story like Logan. The Wolverine, on the other hand, has essentially no other X-Men in it, and is a much better film because of it. However, despite me recognizing and appreciating it for the much better film, I do not like it as much or find it as enjoyable as X-Men Origins and The Last Stand. So, while to me X-Men Origins Wolverine is not good, it is enjoyable, and while the Wolverine is good, it is not as enjoyable. Next, we'll talk about the balance. It is certainly possible and extremely common for a movie or film to be both extremely enjoyable and extremely high in quality. Since I've already talked about its predecessors, a good example of this would be the 2017 film Logan. This is the film where Fox, or specifically writer-director James Mangold, managed to nail the Wolverine formula, if you will. This movie, like its predecessor, has very little to do with the other X-Men, yet it is still one of the most enjoyable X-Men or Wolverine films, while also being a very high-quality film, and one of my favorite films ever. Fun fact. Okay, now I'm going to make another bold statement. There are specific traits that make a movie factually good and factually bad, with little to no room for subjective assessment. What do I mean by this? I mean that when judging film critically, which I deem the correct way to view a film, there are certain filmic qualities that a person should look for. A quality-based good film should include sensible character growth, clear thematic concepts, intelligent commentary on the issues or themes at hand, a cohesive plot and story, clear sense of direction, balanced or focused tone, sensible plot and narrative. These are just a few things in a much wider scope that include actual physical, technical details, acting, more writing, and things like that. And of course, everything I listed is vague and subjective and in need of explanation, but I think you get the idea. A good film is made up of good traits, many small threads being pulled together to form a complete tapestry of writing, acting, and directing. And on the heels of this, these traits also have to be enjoyable if the film is to be good. Or do they? Wind River is, without a doubt, one of the best films of 2017. I absolutely love this movie. It is, in terms of quality, good, and yet this film contains many very unenjoyable sequences. The gang rape for one, the wrist slitting for two, and yet these scenes, while extremely unenjoyable and horrible to watch, are also inherently good. They're good because they make the audience feel disgusted, uneasy, and horrible, exactly how the characters are feeling. They provide commentary on the issues at hand, add to a clear theme, provide growth for the characters, help create a balanced and focused tone, and are both part of tying together the focused plot and narrative. In short, they include almost all of the traits which I have listed that make a film good. And yet, the scenes are unenjoyable. So, if enjoyment and quality, or goodness, go hand in hand, shouldn't Wind River and The Wolverine be bad movies? Yes. However, because personal enjoyment and recognition of quality are and should be separate entities used when judging a film, Wind River gets a pass and can be considered good, if not excellent. This is something which I feel many people in the general audience do not understand. I hear a lot of people in my theater say they didn't like things like Wind River or Saving Private Ryan because the movies are too violent or unpleasant. These people then think, therefore, that these movies are bad. I find this really frustrating because it's such a simple and stupid way of looking at something that is much more complex than that. People don't pause to look at the reason for such scenes or stop to think about what actually makes a movie good. A movie is not inherently bad because you do not enjoy the content presented in it. A movie is inherently bad if it does not present its content in a comprehensive way. I'm not arguing that film and film quality is not subjective, because of course it is. What I am arguing is that film is subjective in terms of personal enjoyment, not exclusively in terms of critical or filmic quality. As I stated, therefore, enjoyment and goodness of a film are not exclusively related, and as a result, film should not be judged as such. For another instance, there are plenty of movies which I know I would not have any interest or enjoyment in watching, which I can still recognize as good films based on the traits which I have listed above. If nothing else, I see this as almost a good way of removing any kind of inherent bias from film viewing and criticism, as it gives us both a clear set of qualitative standards and room for counting personal gratification. For me, using this method to judge films makes articulating my feelings and thoughts on a movie much easier and simplistic, while also helping to understand the films themselves better. However, I'm not going to argue that the tactic is new or foolproof. For example, I'm still unsure of how to feel about divisive movies like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and Star Wars Episode VIII: The Last Jedi. But again, those are both different videos, and I'll talk about them at a different time. Maybe. But those are just my thoughts. As the pretentious douchebag I am, I look at films differently than the average moviegoer, and honestly, pretentious as it is, I think it's simply because I know more about movies than them. Proof of this is evident even among my coworkers. There are a few who I can literally talk to for hours about when it comes to movies because they also know far more about them than the average moviegoer. And then there are other coworkers I have who it isn't really possible to discuss movies with because they just know nothing about the filming process or cinematic components. They're deeply rooted in the mentality of I enjoyed it, so I liked it, so it's good, or there's a hot guy in it, so it must be good. Any attempt to explain to them, using the points I've listed, what makes a movie good or bad is beyond them, and they usually just walk away or stare blankly or say nothing because they have no idea what to say or how to respond to me. But anyway. Again, those are just some of my thoughts. You could totally disagree, and that's fine. But I've been wanting to get this off my chest for a while, and I'm glad that I have. So, the next time someone asks you if a movie is good, or you ask them if a movie is good, stop and think. What does good actually mean?
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it, but if you didn't, that's okay. This is my first video on this channel. I'm planning on doing more. I got a lot of ideas, so you might be seeing me again. But if not, I hope it doesn't upset you too much. If you have any ideas or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And of course, you gotta go ahead and smash that like button. Really mean a lot. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And if not, it's because I got lazy and decided to quit making videos. Have a magical day. Goodbye.